Let me say something that almost nobody talks about when they talk about careers. Most careers don't fail because people are not smart. They don't fail because people lack degrees. They don't even fail because people lack opportunities. They fail they fail because people burn out silently. And the scary part is burnout doesn't show up in the first year. It doesn't even show up in the first 5 years, I would say. It shows up when everything looks fine from the outside. You have a job, you have a salary, you have experience, you are doing what you are supposed to do. But inside something slowly switches off. And nobody prepares you for that. Nobody prepares you for that. When we are in our early 20s, we don't think about all this, right? We don't think about this at all. We can work endlessly. Late nights feel normal. Weekends don't matter. Health doesn't matter. Sleep doesn't matter because everything is fine because you feel like your body and mind are unlimited resources. So you think, let me first fix my career. Everything else can wait. Isn't it? That logic feels correct when you are young. But careers are not short races, right? They are long, repetitive marathons. And what worked for 2 years breaks you in 10. Here is something I noticed after working for years and years. Most people's lives slowly become only two things: work and recovery from work. Monday to Friday, they work. Weekends, they just recover. Not grow, not explore, not recharge meaningfully. Just recover enough to repeat the same cycle again. And later, after 10 or 15 years, they suddenly say things like, I don't know where my time went. I don't have anything apart from work. I feel stuck, even though nothing is technically wrong. That's not laziness. That's not laziness. That's emotional exhaustion. This is where one simple thing makes a massive difference. Massive difference. Not hustle, not another certification, not another promotion. A non-career anchor. Something that is yours, something that is not evaluated, something where nobody is grading you, something that does not have KPIs. For me, that thing was music. Now, let me be very clear here. I did not do music to make money. I did not do music to build a brand. I did not do music to become famous. I did it because it kept me sane. There were phases where I did nothing for years. There were phases where I practiced more. There were phases where I learned from a teacher. There were phases where I taught students. It was inconsistent, to say the least. And that's okay. That's okay. Because the point was not consistency. The point was having something outside of work that kept me human. Here is a mistake many people make, and I have seen this over and over again in the career when talking with the professional. They think a hobby must make money, become a side hustle, be productive, be impressive. That, I would say, is a bit of a nonsense. The moment your hobby starts behaving like your job, it stops doing its real job, which is this: releasing pressure. You don't need another performance arena. You already have one with your job. Why would you like to have another performance arena? Let me say something uncomfortable here. I have met incredibly intelligent people in my life. Incredibly intelligent people. People with great degrees, people with strong resumes, and they still collapsed emotionally. Not because they were weak, but because everything in their life was measured. Appraisals, ratings, deadlines, deliverables. When every part of your life is judged, your mind never rests, isn't it? Because at some point it rebels. And when I talked with those intelligent people, I always felt, why would they not have a hobby? This is why I always say, A long career requires at least one thing that doesn't ask anything from you. No output, no results, no validation, just presence. For some people, it's music, for some, it's sports, for some, it's writing, for some, it's teaching, for some, it's walking, for some, it's just sitting quietly, maybe. And there are so many more. The activity does not matter. The role it plays does. Let me add one light truth here. We always hear people say, I don't have time for hobbies. But somehow we always have time to scroll for 2 hours. We keep on scrolling, right? So clearly time is not the issue here. Energy is. And energy doesn't come from doing nothing. It comes from doing something that gives more than it takes. There is another regret I hear often. I hear it very often. People in their late 30s or 40s say, I wish I had continued that one thing. Music, sports, art, writing, or so many other things. They didn't quit because they hated it. They quit because life got busy. And then one day, restarting felt so hard, too hard to restart again. But that regret is very real. Now let me be very careful here. I'm not saying focus on hobbies instead of career. That would be irresponsible, isn't it? What I am saying is, don't sacrifice everything except work. Because when work becomes the only pillar of your identity, any instability at work shakes your entire life. A layoff, a bad manager, missed promotion, and suddenly you feel empty. Not because the job mattered too much, but because nothing else existed. Here's a simple way to think about it, a simple way. Your career should be important, but it should not be your only emotional support system. That's too much pressure to put on one thing. Even the best jobs cannot carry that weight forever. They cannot. Let me add one more line. An honest humor, kind of. If your only hobby is recovering from work, that's not a hobby. That's damage control, right? Because you are just trying to recover from work during weekends. And yes, we have all been there. We have all been there. And if you are watching this and you are young, this matters more than you think. It matters more. You don't need to be great at your hobby. You don't need to be consistent, or you don't need to post it online that this is what I'm doing. You just need to not abandon it completely. That's it. You don't need to abandon it completely. And if you are already deep in your career and you feel tired in a way sleep doesn't fix, this might be why. Not because you are unmotivated, not because you are lazy, but because you remove all sources of renewal. Let me end with this. Careers don't collapse overnight. They don't. They erode quietly. And the people who last the longest are not the ones who work the hardest every single day. They are the ones who found one small thing that made the long journey bearable. If you have a hobby that helps you survive tough career phases, share it in the comments. Someone reading that might need it today. And if this video resonated with you, and you paused for a moment and you resonated and understood what I'm talking about, please share it with someone you know, because they may need it to hear.